Hello and welcome to another episode of Ringside Fracas. I'm your host Naeem, and today I'm joined by Chris. Chris, how are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just sorting out last minute Christmas bits. You know how it goes.
Yes, the festive period and the last weekend kind of gave us a lot to discuss, especially some things to not maybe celebrate depending on who you are. But yeah, loads to talk about. It's been a good period for boxing, just to watch even if you're just a casual. And also
Mhm.
for this kind of Christmas Eve special, we've also got Jide joining us. Jide, how are you, bro?
I'm good, bro. Hope you guys can hear me. Like Chris,
Yeah.
I'm sorting out last minute Christmas stuff. Currently in Sainsbury's, funny enough. I was speaking with Naeem off air how I'm essentially in trouble because I was instructed to do something, but I thought I could wait, and now I'm struggling to find stuff. But we'll see. So
I mean, it's typical behavior that we used to do, especially when we are in school. Um, you got food tech, you got to get the ingredients, and then you tell your mum in the evening before, oh yeah, we need to go get these ingredients from Tesco's. It's typical. We carry that over from that. So, but this week has been quite packed for boxing. Obviously, last week we had a lot going on, and this week obviously we've got the ring card in Saudi Arabia with Inoue and Junta Nakatani, which we'll get into in another episode. We're going to do another episode this week covering that card, and we're definitely going to do a watch along for that card as well. So make sure to tune in. But let's get into last week's fights, because last week was bizarre. Would probably be one word to use the last weekend. Obviously, Anthony Joshua took on Jake Paul and knocked him out in 6 rounds. The fact that I said that sentence, if you told me I would be saying that sentence 5 years ago, I wouldn't believe you and I'd call you stupid, but yet here we are. It was a spectacle. Seeing the two of them in the ring was something that I couldn't believe it. Even though I was watching it, I just genuinely couldn't believe that this was happening, that a fight like this was happening. Um, but yeah, on Netflix on Friday night, Anthony Joshua took on Jake Paul and knocked him out in 6 rounds. Broke his jaw in two places. He had to have a couple teeth removed in order to fix that. Um, and yeah, I think the performance was nothing to really shout about. Obviously, Anthony Joshua is a world champion. He's a former world champion, two-time former unified world champion. He's one of the bigger heavyweights of this generation, one of the better heavyweights of this generation. And he's still in his active career. To see him fight someone like Jake Paul is odd, is not the norm, is very left field. I think, we'll discuss in terms of what we think about that opponent choice. But 8 rounds and he done it in six, knocked him out. Proved to Jake Paul that you don't play boxing, that this is a serious sport, and if you get in there with serious guys, you'll get seriously hurt. Um, and yeah, the whole thing was a spectacle. Drew in 33 million viewers, which is a lot of viewers considering it was on Netflix. So loads of people had their eyes on it. And quite funnily enough, it was probably in terms of PR, one of Joshua's biggest wins in the last couple of years. I mean, um, loads of people took notice of it. His knockout went viral. There were so many clips, so many videos, so many people talking about Anthony Joshua now, and kind of helped him break more into the US market, which he hasn't been able to do since losing to Andy Ruiz on that fateful night in New York in 2019. But yeah, loads to kind of get into. Chris, you were watching live. What were your thoughts of watching that fight and your takeaways from it?
Right. So, I think the easiest way to summarize it is there wasn't really anything to write home about. Most of us predicted it would go the way it would go. Um, I myself didn't think that a fix was in. I still don't think there was a fix. I still think Anthony Joshua intended to beat him and to cause him some sort of pain. One thing I will say is, in terms of how they performed, um, Jake Paul, he came in with a game plan to essentially spoil the fight, make it as little as a boxing fight as physically possible, going down under any pressure whatsoever. He tried to say he couldn't deal with AJ leaning on him, but it barely got to that before he hit the canvas. Um, I think the judge somewhat tried, but I don't think in a real sanctioned bout, without these finances on the line, he would permit any of that to go on. Um, AJ and AJ's performance, obviously coming off a 15-month layoff after his knockout defeat. Um, Nothing, again, you really don't get anything from that performance whatsoever. Um, I'd expect an AJ retired, even if he retired after the Dubois fight, I'd expect a very similar performance to what I just saw then. He couldn't really cut off the ring well. Didn't land as many shots as I thought he would. It took him a long time, obviously, but essentially, he got paid heavily for it. He got the knockout. His reputation, is it dented? In my opinion, not really. People are always going to complain when AJ does anything, so um, I don't think it changes much in the grand perspective of things. The one thing I do think that did happen was I feel AJ didn't really put much emphasis on trying to hurt Jake Paul. I feel like a lot of the shots he was landing, and even the shot he landed to stop him and break his jaw, it really didn't seem like he was properly sitting on that punch. It didn't really feel like there was as bad intentions as there were, for example, with some of the shots he hit Otto Wallin with, and the shot he hit Francis Ngannou with. And it might have been because, going in with Jake Paul, he's realized that, this guy's not on my level. And subconsciously, you might take a bit of pity on the fighter, even if there's no inherent fix in. You might not want to hurt the guy or do things to the guy as much as you think. And then also conversely, when you're in with a guy who's not on your level, it can be awkward. Things are a bit weird. They're throwing shots and moving in ways in which typically a boxer wouldn't move, and it can make a fight really, really ugly, really fast. But yeah, it's just really a fight where I don't think anyone is really going to rewatch the fight. People are just going to rewatch the knockout. Um, Jake, where he goes from here, I really, really see a reality in which he doesn't box again. Um, Leaving with the damage he left with, the broken jaw, psychologically, I don't think he's ever going to recover from that, personally. Whether he goes in against Francis Ngannou or he eventually goes in against another half-decent prospect, I think that's always going to be in the back of his mind. And the recovery itself is going to take quite some time. He's not going to be able to spar for quite some time anyway, so... But yeah, I guess boxing won, and everyone moves on with their careers.
Fair assessment. Jide, watching that on Friday, what was your takeaways? Obviously, it being part of the AJ crew for quite a while.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was a funny fight. I didn't stay up to watch it because I thought it was just a nonsense fight. So it wasn't something I was going to stay up to watch. I remember waking up and seeing the criticism and saying, for fuck's sake, like, what was this fight like? And I remember saying in the chat, I'm not going to watch it back because it's looking like it was an awful fight. But something said, you know what, just watch the fight anyways and then make your decision. And I'll rewatch the fight. And yeah, the criticism, in my opinion, was just nonsense. If a guy, Jake Paul's been fighting for about, 4 or 5 years now, he has an idea of how to survive. Like, journeymen in general, when they fight, we see them do things to avoid getting knocked out. And good journeymen can take good fighters a couple rounds because they know certain tricks to avoid getting hurt, clinching, and doing all these other things. And essentially, that's what Jake Paul did. He was just not trying to engage with AJ. Every time they clinched up, it's like he was trying to do a double leg takedown. it was just the first 4 rounds was just nonsense, but eventually his cardio, like AJ got to him, and AJ did what he was always going to do to him. He broke him. I agree with Chris where I feel like AJ held back with some of his punches. Like he didn't throw. For example, that right hand he hit Jake with wasn't the right hand he hit Ngannou with, and I feel like he hit Ngannou that hard because obviously he respects Ngannou's credibility as a fighter, so that's why he just took him out. While Jake Paul, he set him up with a very simple shot, jab to the chest, and then right hand down the pipe. Like that is such a high level boxer would never ever get caught by that. So it just goes to show that he just didn't really. This is not his level at all. So it was an easy night's work. And you know what? While I was critical of the fight because I didn't really want to see AJ fighting Jake Paul, I wanted him fighting someone else, getting ready for Fury. The guy who was going to fight wasn't going to get him ready for Fury anyways. And you know what? If he was going to go make 100 million to be up a YouTuber, boost his profile, now you got American women firsting over him, it's going to make the Fury fight even bigger than it would have been. Essentially, it worked out. The idea behind fighting Jake Paul worked out. You see Frank Warren being salty right now, trying to throw AJ with the rest of his heavyweights. It's just, you can see the reason he's feeling that way is because they can see how much AJ's profile grew. So in terms of a profile boosting exercise, it was perfect. But if you're looking at that fight for anything other than a gimmick, this is a waste of time. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a gimmick fight, and in terms of technicality, I can't really take much away from it. Again, AJ out of the ring for a year, probably should have done better in certain circumstances. But again, like you guys say, I'm not good. Any boxer in the world would have taken that fight. So, given the fact it was an 8-rounder against a guy who really posed no threat to him, you get 70 million or however much you get for it, and then you move on to February or March, which is the proposed return date for AJ. And again, they're trying to go down the gimmick route where rather than putting in AJ in a tough fight, they want to protect him for the Fury fight in September. And so they're thinking about doing a fight with, for example, one of the prospective opponents is Rico Verhoeven. Now, for those of you who don't know, he's one of the greatest heavyweight kickboxers of all time. Now, this is a guy, like, he's dangerous, but in boxing, it's not his thing. Kickboxing, and we're going to come on to kickboxing into boxing in a bit, isn't the same thing. And of course, he wouldn't be as dangerous as a top 10 heavyweight. But we can see that from AJ, the idea probably now is most likely to cash out, which is understandable. Like, you've done your thing, and I get it. Same thing Canelo tried doing time and time again is cashing out. As a fan, does it help? No, but hey, do it. I guess you've been in the sport, you've got beaten up. You should be able to have the chance to walk away with hundreds of millions if you can. That's your choice and that's your right. And if you're able to, then if I was part of your team, I'd say, yeah, go ahead and do it. That fight though got a lot of people talking. It got a lot of eyes on it. 33 million viewers, which is still a lot. Terence Crawford got 41 million viewers with Canelo, so it shows you even the big fights can still get you a lot of viewers. But also shows you that AJ's missed an opportunity that if he had that Wilder fight when it was at its peak in America, it would have made a lot of noise because he would have been a bigger draw then. Wilder was also known then, and I think it would have made him into a properly global superstar to the point where he would have been drawing in so much big fights that you would have eventually got the Fury fight because the money would have been undeniable at that point. But it's good for his profile that he's getting more viewers and now he's getting more people knowing about him. So his next couple fights will definitely have more people watching him, not just from the UK, but now from the US. And obviously it builds well towards the Fury fight, not because he knocked out Jake Paul, but again, just getting the idea that people will want to see AJ again. Fight again, and that fight will be bigger. But yeah, there's not really much to take away from it. For Jake Paul, you don't play the sport. There's always been this idea of, I think, that he's kind of cashing out too, because boxing's tough, especially if you're training every day, sparring. He was getting worked over in sparring by guys like Frank Sanchez, Lawrence Okoli, and Jared Anderson. And it's tough to continuously train, spar, and take this damage. Especially when someone like Jake and you've got a future outside of boxing where you can do whatever you want. But yeah, I think he should take a lot of time out and think about whether or not the next crossover boxing fight is for him or not, whether it's against Tank, whether it's against KSI, whatever it is. Just take some time and think about it, because he took a tough shot. A jaw break isn't easy to come back from always. It does change you in terms of what you think. But one question which is quite interesting and relates to Jake Paul's, obviously, do you think most valuable promotions, Jake Paul's promotions, will become bigger? Yes. I think they're cornering the market on women's boxing, because the other promoters are basically pulling out now of women's boxing. And I think they'll be able to push women's boxing on their platform well, because they have all the women, if that makes sense. So whoever wants to watch women's boxing will be able to get it. They're the first promotion to get a deal with Netflix. I mean, most of their stuff has been on, like all the Jake Paul fights have been on Netflix, and then obviously the Taylor Serrano 3 fight. They're looking to push forward a deal with, they've already got a deal with DAZN that they've been doing their club shows with, and their club shows are actually quite good. I've actually watched a couple of them. You've got guys like Yankee Rivera, you've got loads of decent guys. They had Ashton Sylvie, who's obviously lost, and Lucas Bahdi. These are guys like on a domestic level. You can put them on free TV and people will watch it. It's not like it's going to be a huge event, but it's good fights that they put on. And now they're also trying to negotiate a deal with Sky Sports to get UK coverage. So I think MVP is in a good position where they've got these big events that they've pushed, that they have been a part of. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, Taylor Serrano, AJ, Jake Paul. They're part of these big events, but then they're also building their club show. So I think they're a mainstay. I don't know about being completely bigger, but that promotion, definitely a mainstay in boxing, and they're going to be around for quite a while. They've built themselves quite well in that aspect. So yeah, he's one. You can discredit Jake Paul as much as you want when it comes to his boxing skills, but in terms of the promotion, that promotion's actually done decently. So I got to give them their credit. But yeah, I think a gimmick's a gimmick. I don't think there's much to take away from it. I would ask you lot, who would you want to see Anthony Joshua fight next? But I think I know the answer is probably Fury. But if he's coming back in February and March, obviously Rico Verhoeven's one of the guys that they're looking at. But is there any particular person you guys want to see him in February or March? Chris, who would you like to see him in with?
Be honest, there isn't anyone in particular, if I'm being honest with you. We're at a stage where we just want to see the Fury fight. Where AJ is in terms of, challenging again, I think I don't know, I feel like those days are probably behind him. Obviously, the heavyweight division is quite volatile, so things can just happen. But in terms of who I'd want to see him fight before Fury, there is no one in mind, because I think ultimately we want to see the fight. There's been too many barriers. Fury's had too many outs. I think he should just take, whether it's a gimmick fight or whether he fights a bum, whichever one, he should just do something to tick him over until Fury's ready to fight. And I'm sure Fury, in a sense, would do similar. I know there's talk about Fury and Makhmudov. Makhmudov would also be a good opponent, in my opinion, for AJ, because I just don't think he's very good. But or even a Dave Allen, I don't know. But yeah, just no one out of the ordinary, if I'm being honest with you.
Jide?
For me, I basically echo what Chris is saying. It's just got to be the Fury fight. I don't want to see. Apart from that, I'd want to see a Dubois rematch, just to see if he can right that wrong. I still probably believe he loses that, but again, the competitor in him, probably you just want to right that wrong, if anything. But yeah, it's too dangerous of a fight, because really and truly, I just want to see the Fury fight. It's been too long. They've delayed this. It's become, and going forward, the fight is coming through. They need to not follow this nonsense. Like, we had it with Khan and Brook. Before that, we had it with Hatton and Junior Witter. We're having it with AJ and Fury. Like, just fight your domestic rival. This is why I always appreciate George Groves and James DeGale. I always appreciate them because they fought. They fought when they were relatively young, athletic in their prime. Now, we might still not even get this fight because it looks like Fury's just shut up. Before the fight with Jake Paul, he was chatting shit. Now he's shut up. And Yafran Foreign trying to throw everyone but Fury at AJ. So it's like, do they really want this fight? But if it does happen, we're going to get two guys that are no longer in their prime. But ultimately, that's the fight that needs to happen. We just need to close the chapter to this era. Wilder and Usyk are going to fight. So let Fury and AJ fight. So we now finally know how it looked like when everyone fought each other, minus AJ and Wilder. So yeah, that's really the only fight I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, no, perfectly well summed up. I think it's that fight and nothing else. I think if Usyk wasn't fighting Wilder would be the fight in America, would be something that I'd be looking at, because that is a very good fight to put up in America. Because again, the quality won't be great. They're both washed, but washed versus washed, we're still gonna watch. I mean, we watched Khan versus Brook. No matter how many years it happened, it should have happened in its prime, but we still watched it, and it still should happen. So Wilder is someone that I think that they still got to keep on the table for that, because even if they're both washed, people will be tuning in for that. So yeah. But sticking with influence of boxing, because that's basically what it was. We don't normally cover this, but I thought this topic kind of was very blown up on Twitter, considering on Saturday. So Andrew Tate obviously makes his debut on the Misfits card. Now, I'm not sure if these Misfits cards are professional fights or not. I'll have to look into it. I think some of them are, so I think this one is, but I'll have to check. And he makes his debut, and it seems like Misfits have got their new big star, because obviously with Andrew Tate, with his controversial past and the following and the reach that he has, it seems like they're going all in to try and make him the new star, since obviously KSI isn't really fighting that much anymore. And he loses his first fight to Chase Demore. I won't say anything for now. Chris, I know you watched that fight quite intensely. How did you find that?
Oh, mate. Sorry, it's a bit loud where I am, but Andrew Tate might be one of the worst fighters, one of the worst boxers I've ever seen, like I've ever watched in a live competitive fight. He was so bad, as in, I was like just shocked by the level of fatigue he had by the second round, his lack of defensive movements, just inability to keep a complete novice off of him. He didn't have to do that much. And I don't know what he was doing in sparring, whether he was just smoking cigars in sparring or having shots. I don't know, because the guy looked completely out of his depth against a novice. Yes, Chase Demore is a big guy, 115 kilos, 6'5". It can be difficult to deal with that, especially in early rounds. But he was fine in the first two rounds. I had him winning those first two rounds. I know I scored it, probably didn't make any sense, but I had him winning those first two rounds relatively comfortably. He went after the second round into his corner and was breathing out of his mouth. And I remember saying, this guy might be finished. And yeah, that was it. He was literally in survival mode the entire rest of the fight, holding on for dear life. Could have got stopped, badly cut. And against someone who, would probably just about white collar level. So yeah, there's nothing really to take from it. With regards to Chase, there's nothing to say on him as well. He's just terrible. I really don't even know where either should go. They should probably just stop boxing entirely, for both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, Jide, your thoughts on the top G?
I didn't watch the fight. I was never going to watch the fight. It was just nonsense. The memes made me laugh. The highlights were hilarious. Like, there were times where Chase Demore threw like a double punch, a jab and a right hand at the same time, and he still missed. Like, it was just It was so goofy. They both had their chins in the air, throwing shots. It was the goofiest stuff I saw like I've ever seen. Um, Again, I remember I tweeted, "There's no way this guy was a kickboxing champion," and I was saying that not because I expect a kickboxer to be an elite fighter or elite boxer, but there are stuff that translate both sports, keeping your chin down. Like he had his chin in the air, bro. What elite fighter has the chin in the air? His form completely went when he became tired. Again, he's 39 years old, fine, fair enough, but he had no form. His stance was just off. His stance was just awful. I, I just don't know why anyone could say this guy was an elite fighter. I just can't believe it. It was good entertainment for someone to laugh at. Um, Andrew Tate is very controversial. A lot of people don't like him. Me personally, I don't really pay attention to him. Don't really care about him like that. But yeah, because a lot of people dislike and hate him, people are gonna tune in to see him get beat up. Like even though he lost today, they're still gonna tune in to see him get beat up. So I feel like Misfits or whoever did that show or whatever his show he done, they've got a winner there. As long as he can hold up to take his licks, people will watch him and watch him get beat up. So yeah.
I just find it funny because it's like the way he comes across a lot of the times, you'd think, okay, you're talking about that you're a full-time kickboxing world champion, this or that. Show something. No one expect, like you said, no one expects you to be an elite boxer, but this fighting was really bad. Like that level of boxing and whatnot was really bad. And look, I'm going to give credit to whoever steps in the ring, Jake Paul, Andrew Tate, whether it's Chase them or whoever. But when you look poor, you look poor. You look really bad, and they look really bad. And you know, they talk about his kickboxing record. People don't realize that the record, the 4-time world champion that he is, it's not an easy feat to win those belts. I'm not taking anything away from that, but he wasn't a world champion of like the biggest stages. So he really wasn't a world champion, if that makes sense. He was a champion of an organization that was not even the top tier organization, or even second tier, or even third tier. These were like 4th or 5th tier organizations. The guys that he was fighting to beat to become world champion. These guys were like 43 years old at the time and on a 3-11 run before they fought him. So when I looked into that and then I looked at how he fought, it didn't surprise me. Like Chase is someone who's a bit athletic. He's not good at when it comes to fighting, but younger, fresher. And Andrew looked like he had a training camp of just smoking cigars and drinking coffee or something, because he looked poor. But you know, it shows you can't play this sport. You can talk all you want, you cannot play this sport. When you get in the ring, it's the truth chamber, because all the truths will come out. All the secrets that you've been hiding will come out. And if you haven't been training properly, if you haven't taken it seriously, if you haven't been doing the proper work to get better, then you'll be found out. I remember there was a clip going around of him with Jonathan Banks doing pad work, and the way Banks was coaching him, I felt like Banks in his head was like thinking, what am I dealing with here? Like he was trying to coach him and teach him stuff, and I think and you could tell from Banks's body language is like he was telling him obvious stuff that he would have expected him to know, but he didn't. But yeah, it's interesting. But you like you said, Jide, this crossover boxing thing will always have a market, and he will always have a market because he still has his fans with him. And if they do another fight, they'll all come to watch regardless. It's the thing about building yourself. And one thing I think boxers need to take away from guys like Jake Paul, Andrew Tate, for example, they didn't spend years building their craft or whatever, but the reason why they managed to command a lot of money in terms of the big fights and whatnot is because of the fact that they built their audience. And you need to learn how to build your audience. You need to learn that in between camps, you still have to go to work. You still have to, you know, promote yourself, get yourself out there, build yourself amongst your community. Finally, some people are starting to learn that. Like I saw yesterday, Bivol went on a Korean show. I don't know if it was Physical 100 or something else. Like it was a Korean physical show where he was doing pads with one of their most famous actors. And I'm like, finally, this guy's actually tapping into the fact that, oh, maybe I'm not getting the most money that I think I should be getting because I haven't promoted myself either, have I? And now you're starting to reach out to other audiences that you wouldn't have reached before. But after being on that show, more Koreans would know who Dimitri Bivol is. A lot of boxers need to take hand of that you have a lot of work to do in terms of self-promotion. You can't just rely on that. I think I've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast. You have to be able to promote yourself as well as your promoter promoting you. So take that away from this last weekend with the influencer boxing, that they're the ones that got the most traction last week over the actual boxing that happened. Reason being, though, is because they know how to promote themselves, and they built themselves to a point where people will watch them. They know they're not good at boxing, but they'll watch them. People know Jake Paul's not good, but they watched him fight Mike Tyson. 108 million watched him fight Mike Tyson. 33 million watched him fight AJ, because you want to watch them. They've built themselves like that. They've promoted themselves like that. Regardless of what happens, you either want to see me win or you want to see me get knocked out. But either way, you want to see me. So hopefully boxers can take that kind of lesson from last week. But now we go over to the real boxing, because we've had our dabble with the influencer boxing. Craig Richards fought Dan Azeez in Ghana on a Matchroom show. And after a good back and forth battle where Dan Azeez started out very quickly, and Dan Azeez with his work rate is always able to land his shots, come forward, and be able to take the rounds. Craig then started to build back into the fight, find his range, find his shots and his timing, and then landed a brilliant left hook knockout shot to put down Dan Azeez and win the final round. It was a close fight. I had Richards 6-5 up at the time, but to close it out with the knockout was good work. I'm not leaving it on the judge's hand. I'm taking this fight, making sure there's no doubt. It was a brilliant knockout shot. Dan Azeez has never been knocked out, I think. So that was a brilliant shot. Even Joshua Buatsi wasn't able to knock out Dan Azeez. So to be able to be the first person to knock him out is really a good statement from Craig Richards. Even if they're both kind of a bit past the peak of their careers, there's still one kind of campaign left in Craig Richards, and I'm excited to see what the next thing is. I hope this kind of knockout spurs a bit more spite in him to go on and know that I can go and take on anyone else and knock them out, that have the power to hurt people and knock them out. Jide, did you catch the highlights of that fight, and what do you think of Craig Richards?
Yeah, I watched it after I saw the knockout. I had to go back and watch it, and yeah, it was a good fight, man. These are two warriors who've been around the block for a very long time. I just didn't expect that sort of knockout from Craig Richards. I didn't expect him to have that kind of power. Personally, he's very methodical in how he does his work. So yeah, Dan Azeez, again, I like him as a good fighter, warrior. I didn't like him going out like that, but yeah, man, it was picture perfect left hook, check left hook. I can't lie, that's one of my favorite punches in terms of when you drop someone, because you see their head completely, like the torque go through their head, their neck, and you see it just twist, and you see how the legs just give way. It's like everyone that gets dropped or knocked out by that punch go out the exact same way, and it's honestly picture perfect. If you're showing anyone a picture perfect punch, that is what you're gonna show them. But yeah, Craig Richards, man, great servant to British boxing, and yeah, the way I remember, what's his name, Dave Allen saying, "Winner stays on," and that's just how boxing is. Now he's won this fight, he could probably command some good paydays going forward. So yeah, good luck to him.
Chris, your thoughts on the Matchroom Ghana show?
The show itself was very interesting.
Freezing
McBones, a very, very interesting fighter. I'll talk about him first. He gave it the big one. He really gave it the big one. Talking a lot, doing a lot. I will say, for someone who's not really accomplished much in boxing, he done a lot to promote the fight. He did a hell of a lot to promote the fight. He was fighting, I think it was like a local Ghanaian champion, which, in my opinion, doesn't really mean too much. But he was fighting him, and yeah, he just didn't do enough. People were saying he got robbed. I see him trolling his opponent after the fight. Me personally, I just don't think he did enough. He just didn't land enough shots. He was obviously the stronger fighter of the two, but if you don't throw your hands, you can't win the fight. So I don't know where he goes from there. Maybe Misfits. I'm not sure, but we'll see. We'll see what's next for him. Main event, Dan Azeez and Craig Richards. Very good fight. I used to really be a fan of Dan Azeez, his aesthetic, the way he trains, and the grit that he shows in his fights. But he just always seems to fall at the final hurdle. It just seems to be like lapses in concentration and just small technical issues he just hasn't resolved throughout his career. Um, he did find his way in the fight at one point, was looking quite good, but eventually the class of Craig Richards came through, and that shot to finish it off was ridiculous. The sound it made, the damage it did to Dan Azeez. He seems to have like really long forearms.
Yeah.
And so like the torque he put on the punch, on the hook, it was crazy. And yeah, he's always been someone who, whatever fight he's been in, has, you know, always tried and looked competitive. So it's nice seeing him get a name like Dan Azeez on his resume, which is not the worst name you can have within the division. We'll see what he's got next. We'll see what kind of fighters they put in front of him. But yeah, he's at that point where, for me, it's, make or break season. Obviously, there's a lot of tough names in the division now, but hopefully he can win some decent fights and make some decent money in the sport.
I think Dan would probably be the best name on his record. I don't think there's anyone else
Yeah.
that's better on his record than Dan. Probably before that it was probably Shakan Pitters. Obviously he's fought, guys like Bivol and Boazzi, but obviously didn't win those fights. And Frank Buglioni didn't win that one either. But yeah, I'd imagine the Azeez win would be the best on his record. And you'd hope that even if he's 36, that a win like this, especially that being your best win on your record, also one of your most devastating knockouts that you landed. Like you say, I hope it spurs him on to want to push and get these bigger fights. Like, for example, a lot of people are asking, could we get, I don't think it will happen. I think Matchroom are smarter than to do that, even though I think it should happen, is Richards versus Ben Whittaker. I think that's a fight where he will really test whether or not Ben Whittaker is that guy or not. And he will be dangerous in that fight. And for him, getting that knockout over Azeez will kind of spur him on to think, I can knock out a guy like Ben Whittaker, especially how long and lanky he can be, and upright. You can definitely catch him. So that would be fun to see Craig Richards in. Or, for example, at the Yard in a Matchroom Queensbury promotion show, 5v5, wherever it is you want to do. That would be fun. Even if at the Yard is coming off a loss, you do in 2026, you do a Riyadh season show with both of them, or you do a stadium show with both of them on it, Yard versus Richards. People will still watch that, especially if you're in London, you'd watch that because both guys. Obviously I say, we want Boazzi versus Yard, but that would take precedent. But Richards versus Boazzi is also a fun fight. That's also a tough fight for both men. So there is a lot of opportunity on the line for Craig Richards, and he can really do make a push again. He could even fight, Zach Parker. I think everyone here kind of agrees Zach Parker definitely beat Joshua Boazzi. Imagine he beats Zach Parker. He kind of jumps everyone, kind of thinking that, look, you can beat that guy, beat him up. So there's a lot on the line for Craig Richards, and hopefully he can make one last push, because like you said, with his power, it's very underrated, and he can definitely cause a lot of problems to a lot of people. So yeah. And then just lastly, you had Troy Williamson take Callum Simpson defending his British, Commonwealth and European titles against Troy Williamson. Troy Williamson has had kind of a resurgence where he beat Mark Dickinson more recently before this and knocked him out to win the European super middleweight, not European, English super middleweight title. Going into this, Troy Williamson's always been someone who, he was at, light middleweight for most of his career. And I kind of basically thought, how to put this? He's like a good domestic level journeyman where he was losing to basically everyone. He was losing to, he lost to Josh Kelly. He lost the British middleweight title to Josh Kelly. He then lost to Agyarko, then Davis and Jahi Ducker back to back to back. And so in my head, I was thinking, okay, this is a guy that domestically, he's just around that level where he can be around British level, be okay. But he's not really a big threat. And then when he moved up 2 divisions, I was thinking, okay, I don't know how his body will react. But to me, the obvious logic is if you have moved up 2 divisions, especially, and you're not really doing that well against these guys, I'm not going to be that convinced that you're that guy yet. But Troy Williamson looks like a different human being at super middleweight than he did at super welterweight. He knocked out Mark Dickinson and really roughed him up and beat him up. And Callum Simpson, he put him down to the canvas 4 times and knocked him out. I mean, this is someone who looks completely different than how he did at 154. He looks a problem. And Agyarko actually mentioned this recently in an interview where obviously they had their fight and he won that fight and whatever. And that was at 154. Agyarko said he recently sparred him when he was at 168. And he said he just felt different. Like the presence that he had felt different. He felt bigger. He felt more like a bully. He felt like the pressure was on. The shots had more weight to it. Like it was he said I had a rough night in sparring against him. If it felt like a completely different guy to who he fought previously. And I got to give credit to Troy Williamson because especially when you go on a 3-fight skid and they're all back to back, and you go 1 in 4 in your last 5, it's very hard to mentally kind of change that. But since then, and it's only been this year he's changed it. Like I said, he's a different animal. He's changed in such a rapid time. It's not like it took him a year to change it. He changed in this year. He lost in April, but then September, December, he got 2 of the biggest wins of his career, but also 2 knockouts as well. It shows you though that sometimes cutting weight isn't the best thing for a fighter. And you notice, I think he's also noticed that he makes the weight better. Obviously at 168, he's a big, much more physical animal. At this weight class, he's much more competitive. He's much more of a problem, and he really has changed his life around. I don't think anyone would have expected him to become a British, European, and Commonwealth super middleweight champion. But here he is. He's commanding all of this. And Callum Simpson was the guy being kind of pegged as the new domestic star. They were trying to do Barnsley Stadium fights and whatnot, and trying to get him maneuvered into a world title shot so he could do it in a Barnsley Stadium, but. Here he got beat, and he got beat bad. To me, Simpson was always someone that was always going to lose. I watched his fight against Ivan Zuko, and he got hurt bad. He got hurt bad in 2 of those fights to win the European title. He eventually won it, but technically he always comes forward. But he's quite square. He's easy to hit. I just didn't expect it from Troy Williamson. He proved a lot of people wrong, and I hope Troy Williamson can push on from this because. Hey, they were putting Callum Simpson's name in with guys like Hamza Shiraz. So Troy Williamson needs to push on and try to see if he can break into that world level at super middleweight, because super middleweight right now, everything's up for grabs, especially with Crawford retiring. He could do a lot. Chris, did you catch that Boxer show on Saturday and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I didn't catch it live, but I managed to watch that fight, and it was a good fight. I did think Callum Simpson was winning up until the point of the stoppage. It was quite closely contested. I've always heard, because I know a lot of people who've sparred Callum Simpson, especially out in Dubai, and they say in sparring he's like one of the most technically gifted that they come across. But obviously, you know, the one thing about sparring is you have your head guards and you've got big 16-ounce gloves. So when you're getting hit, it's not as big of an issue. And as we saw, he got hit a lot and he got hit quite bad. And he just could not recover. There's an argument that the fight could have been stopped a little bit earlier. But yeah, honestly, Troy Williamson, he looked like a dog out there. He looked ferocious. He saw Callum Simpson was injured. Oh, sorry, was hurt, and you know just stepped on the gas and he did whatever it took to put the fight out of the judges' scorecards, because as we know, the scorecards are kind of crazy. But yeah, it's a good move up. It's been a good move up for Troy Williamson. We'll see how he can hang in with some of the guys in the division, some of the other guys in the division. And yeah, I wish him all the best. It was a really good performance. And as for Callum Simpson, I'm sure he'll bounce back. I'm pretty sure he'll bounce back. He's gifted enough to fight his way through, and maybe put himself in a similar position. Just has to look at, like, as you said, being a bit too square on and being a bit too easy to hit, way too easy to hit. And yeah.
Jide, did you catch that fight on Saturday, and your thoughts on if Troy Williamson can push on in this stacked 168 division?
To be completely honest, I didn't catch that fight, so I didn't even watch the highlights either, so I wouldn't be best placed to give a fair analysis on him and that fight. But from what I've seen of him, he is a talented fighter. I do think he can do stuff in the 168 division. I know we're saying it's stacked, which it is, but it's quite top heavy. And I think he can definitely... Sorry, one sec. Okay. And I think it's definitely it's top heavy, and I think he can do stuff where if he's not fighting the Hamza Shiraz like straight away, or he's gonna be okay. I think he can definitely make a lot of noise on the domestic scene, especially and fringe European and fringe world level. I think he's good enough. He's from what I've seen of him, he's definitely skilled enough. But when it comes to actually fighting the world champions, that's when I feel like he might come unstuck in this current climate until I see a bit more of him. Like I said, I didn't watch the fight, so I don't know how he looked. Maybe some of my doubts can be alleviated if I go back and watch it and see how he looked in that fight. But from what I have seen, yeah, I have my doubts about the very, very elite. But yeah, I think I probably need to watch the fight, and then I'll be able to have more of a fair opinion of where he is right now. But from what I've seen, yeah, I think he can definitely do stuff like in the domestic scene, easy. Not easy, but yeah, he's completely fine at this level. Fringe world, fine.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I think the kind of we need to kind of see what we can get from Troy Williamson and see what is possible with him. But yeah, it was a good weekend. Loads of boxing. There was the influencer side, and also those two domestic shows. And this weekend, there's a lot of boxing to look forward to. Of course, you've got Inoue versus Picasso. You've also got Junta Nakatani making a super bantamweight debut. You've got Kenshiro Taraji fighting for his I think third world title in the third division against Wilibaldo Garcia. You've also got, not on the same card, Masumi. It's in Japan, but on the same day, but in a different card. You've got Masamichi Yabuki versus Felix Alvarado, which is probably the best fight of the weekend.
Quick one, but have you lot seen that saying that apparently when Nakatani goes to a division, Bam leaves that division?
Yeah. It's not surprising, given if you see most times the way Bam gets dropped. I think he's only been dropped once, but when Bam gets hit, it's the long shots. Nakatani physically is a problem for all of those divisions, because when you're smaller, he can keep you at the end of his punches, and because he hits quite hard at the end of his punches, he's very tricky to get in on. It's a tough fight. I'm not saying Bam can't win it. It's just I understand why he wouldn't want that fight straight away. He wouldn't.
Yeah, I completely get it. I completely get it. Even the Inoue fight, like, I keep changing my opinion on who I think wins that. Like, I truly feel like Nakatani could get him, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get into that, especially when we talk about Inoue Picasso in the next episode, and we'll talk more about what we think about that super fight, because obviously this card is a build-up, it's a semi-final basically for Inoue and Nakatani, because they've got it's penciled in. They've got May 3rd, I think it's the Tokyo Dome. That super fight is set to happen as long as both get through this fight well, win their fights and get through it well. So it'll be interesting to see. It's in Riyadh. It's at 8. It will start at 8 a.m. UK time, but we'll discuss more and preview more about it. We'll do an episode, whether it's tomorrow or Friday. We're definitely going to do an episode previewing that. So make sure to catch us in that episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. And anything you want to let us know, please let us know in the comments. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Fracas. And yeah, make sure to keep joining us in the journey. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.